Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Resilient Mind podcast with Andrew Mangoni, myself, Steve Nathanson. Andrew, how are you doing this morning?
Well, to be honest, Steve, today has not been a powerful day for me. I'm feeling low. And, you know, one of the things that we talk about is how we get ourselves out of that mindset when we feel it creeping in. And that's what I think we're going to talk about today is tapping into resiliency and overcoming the flood of doom when things don't look good on the horizon for us.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that because it's absolutely okay to not be okay. And we're not always going to be 100% every single day, and that's okay. We're not perfect as human beings. We go through ups and downs throughout our lives, and we're not alone in that whatsoever. And I appreciate you sharing that greatly, honestly, because I think it helps people to see that other people are human too, and that it's okay, and there's a way past it. So thank you. I greatly do appreciate it.
Right. And, just because I feel down doesn't mean that anything is necessarily wrong.
Right.
I don't even really like using the word right or wrong when I'm coming to feelings. Feelings are feelings. A colleague of mine said yesterday, which was really interesting. She was like, I hope I'm making the right move. And I said, well, let me give you some port on how I feel about things is there are no right or wrong moves. They're just the moves you make and what you make of the moves you make. It's really hard to say it was the right or wrong move unless, something terribly, I guess, shows up and you're like, this is definitely not what I wanted. And then you could, in retrospect, say, all right, well, that was probably the wrong move. But in a lot of times, it's just what you did. And how you feel about it is how you feel about it. And how you can feel about it can change based on what you're putting into it in the moment. And it can very much go up and down. And that's why I talk about sticking to processes like investments is, when you invest in the stock market, it doesn't always just make money. Like sometimes you lose money. But the idea of investing is that the medium of that peaks and valleys is always going up. So we talked about this in earlier episodes, finding that medium within yourself to make sure that you're always, moving towards your goals and your desires, but also understanding that you need to stay invested in the valleys when things aren't going your way and how you overcome when you are under that pressure and you are looking for a way to overcome adversity and break through at that moment.
It's an interesting point because we really, as we've said before on this show, can be our own worst enemies, if you will, by embracing something that truly doesn't serve us or saying, you know what, I can't move that past that and allow myself to get to where I want to go. It starts with our minds. It starts with how we deal with what we are faced with and the mentality around it. And maybe a great example from this past football game last night, which is going to be a couple weeks actually after when this airs. But we're talking about the Bills Chiefs game, the divisional round playoff. The short version of it is there was an incredible end to that football game. Several lead changes at the end of it, and there was about 13 seconds left on the clock where the Kansas City Chiefs, to even have a chance to tie this game to send it into overtime, had to drive 75 yards down the field to score a touchdown. We're getting to field goal range with the field goal kicker that's already missed a field goal, missed an extra point attempt throughout the game. And when you're looking at the clock and you see 13 seconds on it, you can go, man, is this even possible? And you can really defeat yourself by embracing that mentality. But that's not what Patrick Mahomes did, and the Chiefs did. They said, you know what, I've got 13 seconds on the clock. Let's see what we can do. And in about 9 seconds, they drove down the field about 45, 50 yards and ended up making a field goal to send the game into overtime. And earlier, before that, on the opposite side, Josh Allen and the Bills, they were faced with trying to go ahead. They had to score a touchdown to get ahead. They couldn't score a field goal because it wouldn't have tied the game even. Right? They had to go ahead through a touchdown. And Josh Allen really took charge on that drive and ran the football quite a bit, which is, a little bit abnormal for a quarterback. Yes, we see quarterbacks run quite a bit nowadays in the NFL, but he absolutely literally took charge and took over that game. And they were still faced with a 4-13. That's the last play of their season, should they not make it. But sure enough, he made something happen on that drive. He embraced the mentality of, it's not impossible that this is going to happen. It's not a hard slog that this is going to happen. You know what? It is capable. I know I'm capable. Look at what I've done already on this drive, and I can make this happen. He embraced that mentality, which allowed him to actually make that 4th and 13 conversion and continue that drive and ultimately score that touchdown, which is then prompting what we were just talking about with Patrick Mahomes. And it's a great illustration of the concept we're talking about today, because we can really defeat ourselves mentally first and not even see what's possible and already take ourselves out of the game. And I know I talk about sports a lot, and I know I've talked about some Olympic examples recently already on this show, but there's so much truth in what those individuals are able to accomplish when they are faced with that adversity, because of the mindset and mentality that they have and the approach that they take in controlling what they can control, seeing what is possible, and not defeating themselves mentally first and automatically taking them out of the game, or in our cases, taking ourselves out of life because we've already defeated ourselves mentally before we even try.
Right. I'm sure if the listeners think about it for a second, there are more than a few people in your lives that no matter what happens, no matter what comes up, they can easily be like, oh, that's the end of this. I'm done. I can't do it. It's impossible now. This cannot happen. And there are situations where it can seem very, very daunting and nearly impossible. But in those moments, if there is a shred of possibility, you need to latch on to a approximation step of taking action in that, which is having hope that it can be done.
Yeah.
In that moment, you're using hope to take action. And if you let it fulfill you and come out as hard as you can, you may not always overcome the odds. In that situation, one team had to lose.
Right.
And both teams fought hard and put it all out there. And I don't think that you could say that either one played a better game. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, there was just so many seconds and so many opportunities, and one had one more than the other.
Right.
And that's basically it.
Yeah.
But neither team gave up. Both fought to the bitter end. And I guarantee you, no one on either team ever had a thought in their head until the last second ticked away, or the score went up on the board and says this is the final, that they were out of it.
Yeah. It kind of comes down to this: if you give up, you've already lost. But if you never give up, you set yourself up for the possibility of achieving what you want and overcoming what you're facing in that moment.
Right. And I think you can see that in a lot of different aspects of life is, well, if I don't try, I am surely not going to achieve the thing. If I do try, there are all these possibilities that it may not work out in my favor, but you're taking them from a guaranteed not going to happen because you're not making an effort to do it, to the possibility of I could do it, or I did some of it and I learned some things, so next time I can do it.
Yeah.
There are all these other levels of achievement that are maybe not the desired result, but have value, and also ties back into the practice of not giving up and being resilient so that you can always keep moving forward.
Yeah. One of the quintessential key differences that you're talking about in there is the outlook somebody has. Because to your point earlier about life and people who, right, always say, no, it's not possible, I can't do it, it's over, it's done. They're allowing those possibilities of things not happening for them defeat them. They're allowing them to let that dictate their actions. Whereas in the example you're talking about now, someone's embraced the possibility of, yeah, you know what, it may not happen, but I'm sure as heck going to do everything I can to try to make it happen. They're not letting those possibilities defeat them. And I think that's the critical thing that you're bringing out. It's their outlook, the mentality of it, and the fact that, yeah, you know what, if I don't hit the mark, if I don't meet this, there's something I can learn and grow from to be better next time and get to where I want to go, right? They're embracing the possibilities, they're embracing it's within their control, and the fact that it's okay to learn lessons that make me stronger along the way. And I'm going to give everyone two really easy, good examples of kind of how to recognize this and how to overcome it. The first of which is, if you've ever had a friend who's talked to you and you're just like, oh, just do it already, that's a clear indicator right there of someone who's stuck in that mentality that's going to keep them held back. And that's just how it kind of comes out, right? And I could see your head nodding at that, Andrew, is, when someone talks about kind of that defeatist attitude all the time, that's typically what comes out in our minds of like, just do it, right? Take that step, go for it. Now, that's not the right thing to say in that moment, but that's just kind of how you can easily recognize somebody is going through that quote unquote defeatist mentality. The other trick I'll share is, it's always scarier when we think about it than actually doing it, right? How many times in our own lives have we thought about, oh, that wasn't so bad? Because when we actually take that step and we actually do something and we actually gain the experience of it, it often doesn't meet that whole big, scary thing we've built up in our minds. And the beauty in that too is when you actually have that experience, that's what builds your confidence in yourself to actually do what we're trying to do. So that's the other trick, is if we just take that one small tiny step forward, you're going to naturally build the confidence and experience that you need to continue to do it and achieve what you're looking to achieve. It's getting out of our own heads, recognizing that it's always scarier in our minds than it is in actuality.
Right. And it boils down to that one simple phrase: whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Right.
And so when you are in a situation where you say, I can't, what are some things that can make it I can? Start thinking about it. Like, start thinking about how you're going to overcome the I can't.
Yeah.
Another useful thing that I have practiced is it I can't or is it I won't? right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in a lot of situations, you don't want to do the thing. So if that's true, speak I won't. Don't speak I can't. Because speaking I won't at least gives you the power to say that this was my decision and I won't do that.
Yeah.
Because it's not intrinsically important enough for me to take action. That's okay. But to put it on other things and say I can't because of circumstances or because of this or that or this, that takes away your power.
Great point.
So they're, again, very small shifts, and you're seeing it in real time. As I started this episode much lower, and as I talk to my friend Steve, and I feel, empowered by my thinking and how I'm shifting just to make this episode, I already feel better.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see it in my face if you're watching the video. Like, I've definitely perked up through this episode.
Yeah.
And they're just small shifts of thinking. It's nothing beyond any of us. Everyone has the power to do it.
I think what you just brought out is a very phenomenal point, and I think it's very, very much worth repeating. There is a drastic difference between I won't and I can't, and the power that comes from it. I think that was a wonderful illustration. Because one is holding true to who you are, your values, your morals, and accepting us. The other is defeating us. This is something that I hope will resonate with the audience. Greatness doesn't come from I can't, it comes from I can. And if we want to achieve greatness, if we want to achieve the things we want in life, it starts with us first. And that simple phrase, I can. Or even more powerful, I am. It's all about
Yes,
what's up here in our minds.
I am. And tap into who you have to be to get the thing done. I am confident. I am resilient. I can do this because I am powerful enough to overcome these obstacles. I'm a creator. I can create past impossible.
Yeah. Words really, truly do matter. And the way that we talk to ourselves truly matters as well. Self-talk is very, very important. It's a very big part of what I do with folks as well when I coach them. And the beauty that I see from that is when people start recognizing what they say to themselves and how it doesn't serve them, how it defeats them. Right? I'm not good at math. I can't do this. It's not possible. I'll never be able to do this. It starts with the recognition of what those are for each of us, because we all have them. But when we recognize that and we embrace that they are part of us, but they don't serve us, we're able to start shifting that mentality towards I am, I can. And hope, one thing that you touched on earlier, I do want to just revisit briefly because I think it's important to this point. Hope naturally comes with taking action. Just wishing something, wishful thinking, oh, I want this to happen. I wish this would happen. That's kind of where it stays. Just those phrases, those sayings. When you truly have hope, it drives action. And that's an important part of the concept of hope, is it's not just wishful thinking. It's, I have hope that this is possible and I am actually going to take action towards it. So there's a distinct difference between hoping something's going to happen and wishing for something's going to happen. And I challenge our listeners right now to think about their lives. Are you just wishing, or are you hopeful? Because if you're hopeful, you're inherently already taking action because you believe it is possible. Again, what do we tell ourselves? Power.
Right. And when you practice, when you become aware of the little differences that it makes when you can say, I can, I will, I am, is again, they're small shifts. And one of the things that we've all heard this is that like the little things are important, all the little things matter. And I know as human beings, we're always looking for big breakthroughs, huge advancements, and all these other things. And one of the things that I kind of come to realize is that those things are entirely made out of little things. So the little things are everything.
To share a great example of that, and I promise I won't get too far afield with it. We have a tendency to see overnight success in this country, right? Let's use viral videos as an example. Oh, this has gone viral. Look at the instant success somebody has had, but we don't see the years of practice that goes into it. We don't see the hard work and dedication that someone's put into creating something. Bumble, random example, it's a dating app. And I believe their CEO last year or within the past 2 years became, I think if I'm getting it right, I think she became a billionaire perhaps. That app didn't just launch overnight and give her that success, right? It takes years of creating that concept, vetting it out, putting it to practice, building out the technology, testing it with your market, making tweaks, just like any other product. But the first thing we may see in society is, oh, look at that instant success. She's now a billionaire. Look at what happened. We don't see everything else that went into it. Tom Brady, we don't see everything that he does off the field, right, to put him at the level he's doing. Same thing with Mahomes. Same thing with Josh Allen, the two quarterbacks from the game we talked about last night. You just see what happens on game day. You don't see all the time and effort that they put into building that skill set, even starting as children. It takes time and effort built of a bunch of little things to achieve that giant success.
Plain and simple is everything magnificent is built on tiny steps.
Practice, to your point that you like saying as well, right? Practice, 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 practice.
Right. And life is practice. That's it. Is your life is a practice of how you want to live it. And if you're not practicing and you're unhappy with the results you have, that's why, is because you're not being intentional with your life. You are responding to it. You're drifting in it. Remember those Volkswagen commercials? You know, in life, there are passengers and there are drivers. When it comes to your life, you always want to be a driver. You don't want to be a passenger in your life.
And it gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. Is the power to keep going or the power to give up is within us. Which one are you going to embrace?
Yeah, plain and simple. That's it. I love doing this show with you so much, Steve.
Me too.
I think what we talk about and what we create and what we expand for our listeners is important aspects of life that, I don't know, maybe they don't hear every day. And I'm always trying to connect with you and deliver in a way that is authentic and real and not full of trappy, buzzy words. We're not trying to sell anyone on anything. We are putting this out there for support and to, hopefully somebody listening helps improve their situation because it empowers them to understand that they can have the choice to do so. So I just want to thank you for always doing this with us. And I want to thank our listeners for tuning in, because it drives us. It drives us to show up every week and put together our thoughts so that it can help us, so that it can help others.
Yeah, and I appreciate it very much as well. And you've always shown up very authentically. There is that exact purpose of what drove us to do this podcast is throughout each of our lives and the challenges that we face and what we've been able to accomplish, we've really had to look at ourselves to go through these lessons that we're talking about and that we're sharing. And we're not perfect. And I'm never going to purport to be that way, because we all go through these things. We all struggle. The difference between people who truly achieve what they want to achieve in life and perhaps the folks that don't is the mentality around what are they putting into practice every day, and are they taking themselves already out of the game because they've given up and defeated themselves, versus embracing what I can control and how I can control it to give myself the best chance to succeed in the way that I want and be that driver in my life versus the passenger.
Right. And, to say when you never give up doesn't mean that you will always come out on top.
Right.
That's wishful thinking. Like, no one succeeds 100% of the time.
Right.
And even at the pinnacle, you've seen people who, let's go back to football, is when Tom Brady lost that Super Bowl to the Eagles, like everyone was stunned, like just absolutely stunned. And I don't think anyone wrote it in their heads that was even a possibility. Like, most people kind of already thought that they came into that game already winning, just because of the history and the talent that was around him at that time. But even then, what I'm saying is true, is that even if you are at the pinnacle, there are going to be days where things don't go your way.
Yeah.
And, I don't think he stopped playing football after that day. And I guess what? He won another Super Bowl after that.
Yeah. I mean, and, an even stronger example perhaps of that one too is, I think, the undefeated season, right, that they had up until, I believe it was the Giants they played that year, and they lost in that Super Bowl.
That was a good one too.
Right. It was something like they went, 19-1 or 18-1, whatever it was, right? They were one shy of perfect because the Patriots lost the Super Bowl to the Giants. And it's another great illustration is, Tom Brady has won 7 Super Bowls, but he's lost several others as well. We don't always come out on top. And you know what? That's okay, because those experiences, they make us better. They make us stronger. If we never fell, if we never had any regrets, we'd never have anything to learn and to grow from. It's a natural part of who we are and what drives us to be better. And that's okay, because again, it's all within our control of how we view it and how we leverage it to get to where we want to go.
Right. There's that really great quote in Batman Begins where little Bruce Wayne says, they say to little Bruce Wayne, "Why do we fall?" And it's so we can learn to get back up.
Yep. And that's, I think, what we'll leave you with today is, what can you do to get back up and make sure that you are being that movement in your life and driving towards what you want?
Yeah. We'll end it there. Have a good day, everyone.
Till the next time, be the movement in your life.